Have you guys ever noticed that after a rain, how quickly things seem to grow and just take off? You can water them all day long, but that beautiful rain just has something special in it. These are my celosia that I grew from seed right here. And then these little guys coming up are sweet alyssum that are white. That should drape over my pot. This is the second pot that I have. All of my celosias didn't make it that I had grown from seed, so I planted more, so you can see more coming up. And then again, sweet alyssum. And this is my pot of beets. I have never had good luck with planting beet seeds directly into my garden, but a couple of years ago I started planting them in pots and have had really good luck. So these are the tall top early wonders, and I like those best. They just seem to grow best, and the other thing I like is that I think it's a pretty container plant. So it's providing me food, but it's also a pretty plant, especially when it gets tall and full. And these are my rudbeckias that I planted. So they're all coming up nicely. It's always interesting when I spread the seed everywhere, but I think through the watering and rain, the seeds tend to float around a bit and move around, but that's okay. I can move the plants once they get bigger. And then here are my summer squash. I had originally planted, if you've seen my previous video, I originally planted 2 plants that I grew from seeds, and one of them ended up dying in this pot, so I've just stuck some seeds in here, and of course they're all coming up. Don't think the pot's big enough for 4 plants, so I will pull some of those. I will just leave it with 2, and that's probably going to be pushing it, but I'm going to try it anyway. And here are my climbing roses that used to climb over this arbor. And then they got extremely woody, so I decided to do a rejuvenation chop this year and cut them down to about a couple feet. And they are doing great because at the bottom they had become extremely woody, and at the top, I think I had to use a saw to get it off the arbor. I had a quote stem that was at least 2 inches. The caliper was at least 2 inches. So as you can see, they have come back nicely this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the summer, this rose is close to the top of this arbor again. Kind of funny how this side has just boomed as far as flowers. This side has done more growing. It did have some woodier stems over here. So, and you can see the rain has caused some to fall. There's some hidden in there. And I don't know if you guys have grasshopper problems, but obviously I have grasshoppers, and they love to eat my rose leaves. I'm munching on them. Haven't seen too many, and it's not crazy, so I haven't put anything on these. So now we're in my veg garden, and the first part is herbs. So you can see the basil shooting up there and the chamomile. I don't know if you guys knew this. It wasn't something I knew before I started growing chamomile, but at night, the petals on the flowers, let's see if I can show you one, turn under. But as the sun comes up more and more and it gets warmer, they pop back up. So I've also got some basil over there and some dill coming up that everything I've done from seed. The thyme plant, I ended up buying the thyme plant, I think it was last year, but it comes back every year. The lemon balm I grew from seed, and it's a perennial. I have carrots that I'm growing from seed. If you can see those little babies. I have spinach back there. Not sure it's gonna do great because the temperatures are starting to get really warm. And my sugar snap peas, growing nicely. My oregano comes back every year. It's perennial. It's looking beautiful. Butter crunch lettuce. Of course, that's not gonna last much longer with the heat. And my romaine lettuce. Hopefully it will take off soon because it won't handle the heat real well. You can see lots of other things popping up because I've planted a lot of flower seeds like marigolds, and I think I sprinkled some rutabaga in here. I've also got some eggplants. Some of them survived the winds and some of them didn't, but hopefully they'll come back nicely. I've got Walla Walla onions that are growing nicely. And I planted chives right here, but I don't know, let's see. There's some tiny, tiny ones coming up right there. Right there. And of course, my 2 russet potatoes. And I planted something I've never planted before, is a honey nut squash. It's a butternut squash, but it is like single serving size and supposed to be sweeter. So hopefully that will do really well. And then on this other side, you can't see a lot of them really well because again, the winds around here in the spring really tear things apart. So it's the survival of the fittest when it comes to some of our plants here. I have peppers and I have tomatoes in this long bed. So we've had a good rain a couple of days ago and our winds have subsided a bit. And so hopefully things can really start growing instead of trying to just survive. All right, it's a beautiful day. As you can see, can't see the mountain very well because when we get a lot of rain, it obviously creates humidity once the sun comes out. And so we get a fog, which I always think is so pretty on the mountain. Show you a little bit of that. Guess what? My little lavender is blooming. This one has been in the ground for years and it just does not get very big, which is okay. It's just a sweet little fragrant lavender plant. I've got 2 of them that have survived over the years. And I'll show you in a minute. I bought a different variety, a different type of French lavender, and I planted it in a pot this year, hoping that it will get really big and do well in a pot. And of course, my big, beautiful, luscious rosemary plants. And my autumn sage is doing well. Looks like it might bloom soon. Right there is a bud. Here's my other lavender plant, about to bloom. And of course, my beautiful ebb tide roses. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little lizard on the wall. Oops, chased him off. These guys look absolutely beautiful, and the smell on an ebb tide, it has, as they describe it, a clove scent, not sure I smell cloves, but it is just the most beautiful scent of a rose that I've ever smelled. Then we've got my blackberries, which is exciting that we're blooming. Blooms mean fruit. And then my dwarf Fuji apple tree. Just want to show you how big the apples are getting right now. This thing is really loaded. And then our Bartlett pear, which is also doing well. It does well every year. Look at this. I'm probably gonna have to thin some of these. Which I don't know about you, but thinning fruit off of a fruit tree is very difficult for me because I want the most fruit I can get, but I know I can have larger ones if I do thin it. The hummingbirds are flying by me. Oh, I'm gonna take you over here and show you the lavender that I planted in a pot. You can see this pot that I'm walking towards. It's a very large pot, and I put a pot inside of it so I wouldn't fill that clay pot with dirt. And I have planted I believe it's called a Lavandula dentata variety. It's a French lavender, and then you can see these little seeds. I planted gomphrena seeds in there, so we'll see how this does. I thought the gomphrena would actually fill in and give me color until that lavender gets big enough. One more thing I didn't show you are how my nepetas are doing. So they've actually been blooming for quite a while, and I'm noticing they could probably soon use a trim so they'll flush out again. And they are always covered in bees. Okay, one last thing that I'm going to show you is something new I'm trying this year. So I am growing a loofah from seed. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube growing these, so I thought it'd be fun to try. So I made this trellis out of some of the stems from the climbing rose that I cut off and some of my blackberry vines that I trimmed. So I expect that, based on what I've seen, this vine will more than wrap around this trellis. And so we'll see, I may have to deal with that later. All right, so thank you for watching this quick little tour of my garden. And as always, have a great day.